Previously on AngelWing.
Alistair, I'm pregnant, and you're the father!
I just shot a bear!
All we know for certain is that everyone on the planet seemed to have blacked out at exactly the same time.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. Everyone who knows about the file is already dead. The orichalcum is the key.
Don't shake the light bulb.
You're gonna die, Charlie.
Chapter 3. Alistair's Return.
Doctor, tell us the truth. Russell melted?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Rowanhart, but we still don't know. Her heart rate is slower than a typical coma-induced patient. She needs to wake up before we can be certain of her entire condition.
What if she doesn't wake up?
Let's hope she does. All we can do is wait, with a prayer in our hearts. Delilah heard the voices as from far away. She comprehended that there were three, two sounded like her mother and father. She didn't recognize the third. I sounded professional, cool, and calculating, full of sympathy. Delilah tried to move, but found that she couldn't. Her limbs felt like lead. Her eyelids felt like they weighed a ton. Like pianos! Her head shifted slightly as she struggled to open her eyes, and a sudden hush made her stop to listen. Apparently her parents were watching her as intently as she was to hear them, their voices shaking with worry and terror. Once again, she tried to open her eyes with intense difficulty. Difficultly, sorry. They just wouldn't budge. It was like trying to lift the car with her bare hands. At the thought, the images of a crash came flooding through her head at a tremendous speed. The shadow jumping out in front of the car, the spinning scenery, the collision, the dark figure freeing her from the wreckage, the dark figure with a glowing hand. Then someone catching her, holding her securely, whispering her name, a familiar scent. Like vanilla. There was a small knock on something metal. Something opened the door. Delilah faintly heard the noises of people hurrying, people calling one another. The noise died away, and the sounds of someone walking into the room. Her parents, who were talking quietly with each other, fell sullen as the newcomer entered. There was a soft murmur of voices, and Delilah distinctly heard the visitor, "I think I can help." She couldn't place a voice with a face, even though it sounded oddly familiar. She heard soft footsteps coming closer, then a hand clasped hers. It felt warm, and Delilah felt calluses on the surface. She felt something hard and cold touch her forehead. It felt good against her throbbing brain. The stranger began muttering under his breath, words spilling forth, words completely alien to Delilah, like they were words of some sort of conscious power, like it was in Spanish or something. The object on her head began to feel warm, like a rock that had baked in the sun for hours on end, at least 8. There was a brief glow that seeped in through her eyelids, and she heard audible gasps from both her parents. Then it stopped. The figure moved the hand holding hers to her eyelids, and then pushed them up gently. Soft light flooded Delilah's eyes for an instant. Then she blinked and looked around. The first thing that she saw was that she was lying on a hospital bed in a softly lit room. Medical equipment was arranged around her bed, checking and monitoring her vital signs. An IV was stuck in an arm that wasn't in a sling, keeping her hydrated. Oh, that's nice. She just felt sick just looking at it. She next saw her parents and a sullen-looking doctor stand up and hurry over to her. Both parents went to either side of her, tears of joy sliding down their cheeks. The doctor hurried over to do an evaluation, checking pulse and other things.
Delilah, sweetie, how are you feeling?
Her mother asked, looking relieved. "Where am I?" Delilah asked, looking around more closely.
"You're in the hospital, darling. You just woke up from a serious coma,"
said her father, also looking weak with relief. "How did I get here?" Both parents and doctor looked puzzled at the question. The doctor recovered first, answering in a calm voice. "You were brought in by..." He looked around inquiringly. Delilah looked in the direction where the doctor was looking. The doctor apparently has a very, very bad habit of not ending his, quotes. The only other person in the room was leaning against the farmost corner, despite the fact that he is literally just over here 2 seconds ago, and she didn't see any movement of him moving away. He's currently sliding his gauntlet over his left hand, which I thought was a glove. Realizing that everyone was looking at him, he pushed off the wall and walked slowly forward. Mrs. Rowanhart moved around to the bed to stand next to her husband as the stranger came closer. The figure stopped next to Delilah's bed, looking down at her. Delilah tried to look up at her rescuer's face, but the hood of the cloak blocked the light from hitting his face. Slowly, he lifted his gloved hands up and, just as slowly, removed his hood. Delilah stared at the eyes that had captivated her for nearly 2 years, the eyes of a deep, sapphire blue. "Hello, Delilah," said Alistair, slowly lowering his hands to his side, watching her. "Long time no see." Delilah stared at him, a feeling of awe and surprise mixing within her stomach, like some horrible mixture of bile and food, digesting and slowly moving her way through the lower intestine, where she absorbed nutrients of the surprise and awe. And I don't know what would happen after that. She would probably process it in her bloodstream or something. Alistair was here, though, in her room, smiling down at her like so long ago, but he didn't look exactly the same. Alistair's hair was the same brown as before, but it was longer than she remembered. His bangs were slightly longer, and had a short ponytail out of the back of his head, steadily darkening to a rich mahogany, which is just another brown. He looked slightly taller, maybe a full head taller than her. The most dramatic change, however, was a roughly lined scar, wide as a pencil, sliding down the left side of his face in a wide, sideways V shape. It persisted down to his neck and seemed to continue down to his body, even those robes covered them up. You know, those Chinese ninja robes. But everything else was the same as in her memory. The thin, muscular figure, the slanting eyebrows, the dexterous hands, the sapphire eyes.